Hello everyone, I'm Brian Croy Dragon and welcome back to Vox Adventures. Yeah, just give us a moment here. Excuse me. Yeah, just give it a moment. Yeah, not responding, of course. Yeah, there we go. Let's get the sound turned on. So as you can see, we're back at Diamond. Okay. So I don't really have anything planned for today. Just we go out hunting, foraging, that sort of thing. And Markiplier's indie horror bone shit starts early. Oh, jeez. This used to be so much easier. Well, what can I talk about? I've finished writing 2 books, Ramu Ronaman the Exalted and Seeking the Island of Atlas. And currently working on a third, The Adolescent 12 Months of Commander Burke. Ramu Ronaman the Exalted is inspired by many an undersea tale, predominantly Namor and Aquaman. Seeking the Island of Atlas is... oh dear. Fish! Seeking the Island of Atlas is actually inspired by an episode from Jacques Cousteau's Ocean Tales. What? What? And the adolescent 12 months of Commander Burke is actually a pirate story, an origin story for a pirate, in fact. His youth, how he decided to become a pirate. The way I have it is that the inspiration was already there, with people like Henry Morgan and Henry Avery, And if you know anything about the golden age of piracy and the names I'm using, you get a good idea of when it takes place. It takes place in 1694. No! What? Hmm. Huh. Odd. Oh, come on. No! For goodness sake. What? Why isn't it responding? What's going on here? Okay, hold on here. Well, there's a way out. For goodness sake. I don't know what's happened there. It's weird. It shouldn't be happening. The spot I should teleport to when I go to that house, it should not be blocked by anything. I should not be in a wall, in the ceiling, anything. I should just be in the living room, the throne room, whatever you want to call it. Oh, jeez. Okay, how did I not take fall damage? For the King Kong homage I talked about sometimes, actually going to be cancelling that and moving the Kong equivalent to my Jungle Adventures story. Already got a lot of homages there. It's going to be homage to Tarzan, Sheena, Superman, Batman, Predator, Red Sonja, Planet of the Apes. Yeah, it's going to cover a wide range of genres. Here's an idea, stay on the beach. Excuse me. Where the hell am I? Well, we found a town. Hey. Hello, Alex. You're fine. Okay, come on up. What? Come on. Do not skeletons just count as Cyclops? Or was that another player? Hey. After the adolescent 12 months of Commander Burke, I might uh, do something inspired by Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Maybe. You know, a submarine story? Oh, Alex. Should have kept the arm there. There we go, thank you. Well, I I think I should probably explain my jungle adventures. story, how it ended up with so many, yeah, so many. Uh, Influences. It initially started out as strictly being influenced by Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan novels. And then I started adding things that he had, other works that he had crossed over with. So you've got Superman, Batman, Sheena, Predator. Planet of the Apes, King Kong. Yeah, you end up with a lot of influences. And you also end up with influences from Edgar Rice Burroughs' other works, such as the Pellucidor series. There will also be some influence from the Barsoom series and the Amateur series. So you'll end up with some science fiction. Where am I gonna set it? Not Earth, not Mars, not Venus. So where exactly does that leave me? Saturn? Maybe Saturn? Oh, maybe Neptune. Oh yeah, of course. So you can't forget that Tarzan had a crossover with Red Sonja, thanks to Dynamite Comics. Thanks to comics, Tarzan has had many a crossover. And with the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate, with the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs, allowing a crossover with King Kong, that's where I get the inference to throw in my Kong, my initially planned Kong homage. Oh, that's not. Yeah, I'm a comic book fan, I'm a literature fan, film fan, so I can. So by taking a look at various, well, works, I end up finding something that wouldn't exactly be known to mainstream audiences. And of course, as always, I tend to get my ideas from unused things as well. The funny thing is that before the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs allowed the authorized crossover between Tarzan and Kong, a novel, not a comic book or a graphic novel. Dark Horse Comics had intended to make King Kong comics with one of the many characters. Oh jeez, that Kong would have had a crossover with being Tarzan. Thought of other characters. I think the Walketeer was another such planned character to cross over with Kong. Excuse me 1 second. Yeah, so, as I was saying, oh, hello. Yeah, Kong was actually, the Kong idea, the Tarzan and Kong crossover did eventually become a reality, and even Netflix got in on the action by doing a crossover between their shows Tarzan and Jane and Kong, King of the Apes. Renderman. Okay, so, I'm definitely gonna have the well, okay, so as a fan of literature, I read many a thing. I won't touch anything racist, though. I mean, it has to be, well, um, it has to be more of a case of, oh, that was common back then, instead of, oh, this was considered, if it was considered racist for even for that day, I'm not gonna touch it. If it was, oh, that was common back then yeah, I will touch it. I'm not gonna read anything written by a white supremacist, any racial supremacist. No way, Jose. No racial supremacy, no religious supremacy. I don't read anything by people like that. So I've read Planet of the Apes. Wonderful book. Some of the screen adaptations aren't up to standards, but what do you expect? The closest that we got to adaptations that have come to standards are the TV show Return to the Planet of the Apes and then the Tim Burton film. But not by much. Now, if you're wondering what I mean by not by much, well, how do I put this? Both Return to the Planet of the Apes and the Tim Burton film are a bit more faithful than what everyone thinks of Planet of the Apes. Return to the Planet of the Apes, return the titular apes to their contemporary technology. They were actually as advanced as, in the book, they were as advanced as the people of Pierre Bourne's time, which was the 1960s. Yeah, 60s, 50s, pretty sure it was the 60s. Of course, by the time the show was made, it was in the 70s, so you still have that. Now, as for the Tim Burton film, it kept the titular Planet of the Apes being a separate planet from Earth, because that's what it was in the book. It was not Earth. And it actually kept the twist ending. The twist ending of the book was completely different from the twist ending of the Charlton Heston film. Basically, what happens in the book is that Ulysses, Nova, and their son return to Earth. Well, Ulysses returns to Earth anyway, since Nova's a native of Sorora, the other planet, while Lucius, as I said, is their son and thus a hybrid between the two human races. humans of Earth, humans of Sororor, so you've got that. Anyway, they get to Earth and find it's gone the way of Sororor. Apes have taken over. That was actually reinstated for the Tim Burton film, but then it included the statue of General Thade, and I don't know. As I said, they're more faithful, but not by much. So where am I going with this? Well, there were quite a few plans for a remake of Planet of the Apes. Some of them weren't even exactly remakes, they were alternate sequels. But the remake, well, the plan, oh, jeez, this is getting confusing. Alternate sequels, planned remakes, oh, it gets so confusing. Anyway, one of them, Return of the Apes, at least I'm pretty sure that was the title, featured not the rather than the future, it happened in the past. We're talking 10 million BC times. That general Hollywood setting. An advanced society of apes waging war on the primitive humans of the time, and humanity succumbing to an illness created by the apes that took them until the 1990s for it to actually kick in. Good lord, I don't know. I like the idea of it being the past, because it works with because that way I don't have to, because, well, with the Red Sonja influence, I keep the Hyborian, I keep it being in the past. And by having it be on another planet, I get to make reference to one of my favorite concepts from Planet of the Apes. The concept that someone on another planet had an empire while someone else was primitive. It's not an exact replica, because for the apes, it's the concept that humanity had an empire while the apes swung from trees. And by incorporating Pellucidar, the Pellucidar influence, which featured an inner world inhabited by cavemen, pirates right out of the Golden Age, and even ancient Greek civilizations, we get the idea that the civilization that we encounter at the center of whatever planet it's going to be on is even older than we can comprehend. Oh, and you're probably wondering about that Return of the Apes film that was never made. It's weird. It's weird. There were names from Lord of the Rings incorporated into it. One of the apes is actually named Nazgul. I'm telling you, it's bizarre. The intended star of the film is going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Good Lord, Arnold Schwarzenegger just keeps coming back, doesn't he? I mean, it's a good thing he does, and I love him for his environmental work. But Frankenstein's monster, I'm sorry, no. The fact that Tim Burton was up for directing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and he wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the sharp-featured man, as Kenneth Branagh termed him, I'm sorry, no. Robert De Niro was the perfect choice for that. And Kenneth Branagh was the perfect choice to direct the movie. And of course, if we're bringing up Arnold Schwarzenegger and what could have been, need we forget that he was up for the part of Alan Grant in Jurassic Park. Back when it was a different director than Steven Spielberg. Well, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, no. Well, the actor considered for John Hammond wasn't so bad. Charlton Heston. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with Charlton Heston, and I didn't agree with him and his gun enthusiasm. Must have gone mad in his old age. But he was still a good actor. Wonderful actor. He would have done he would have done a good job as John Hammond. He was equal to Richard Attenborough. Who was considered for Ian Malcolm? Oh, jeez, I don't even remember. It's just some guy. Yeah, just some guy. Yeah, like I can't even remember his name. And returning to the fact of what could have been with the roles that Arnold Schwarzenegger played, we have the original version of Clash of the Titans, where he was considered for the role of Perseus. At least that's whom the executives wanted. Good lord, that would have been terrible. You just can't beat Harry Hamlin as Perseus. He's the best. What? I didn't attack him, what? Hmm. Yeah. Okay, what? Glory of Hera I'll get back to eventually. It's not finished. It's, well, just not finished. I feel like I've got a lot I would say about what I would say about it is that I feel like I got more freedom since I decided to have it be set post Heracles' lifetime. Post Troy, just have it be set when the Heraclids ruled Sparta and Macedon. It gives me much more freedom than having to incorporate a new character into one of Heracles' adventures. Now, the Minoan world, it was easy because Theseus doesn't actually appear until later, and he's the hero of his story, but he's actually quite minor. Speaking of which, I've managed to figure out how old Helen of Sparta was from the time of the end of the Trojan War. 33. Now, allow me to explain. Theseus' abduction of Helen happened late into Theseus' role. So if we take it to mean it happened in the last year of his reign, well, it gives us a good idea of a date of birth for Helen. And the fact that we know she was 12 when that happened, it really helps a lot. We have the fall of Troy at 1184 BCE. Well, that's not traditional dating. And with the modern dating having since been applied to the ruins of the Athenian kings, of the mythological Athenian kings, that helps out a lot. So at the end of it all, we end up with Helen being in her early to mid-30s, 33. So what does this tell us? That Rosanna Podesta was very much underage to be playing Helen in Helen of Troy, the 1956 film. She was the right age for the start of the movie. I mean, if it only covered her when she fled, when she left Sparta, because let's face it, there's only one version where she goes willingly with Paris. The other two involve outright abduction well, let's face it, they're both abduction. But one is actually him carrying her away by force, and the other one is Aphrodite changing Paris's appearance into that of Menelaus's appearance. So she went with her. So she thought she was leaving with her husband. Until eventually the spell wore off and she saw that she was not with her husband at all. Yeah, let me reiterate. Only two versions. No, wait. Only one version actually has her going with Paris of her own free will. What does that tell you? I'll tell you what it tells you. It tells you that someone who wanted to make a romance out of her abduction needed to find a way to make it more palatable. Yeah, so anyway, Rosanna Podesta, seriously underage. You have a 22-year-old playing a woman from the age of 23 to 33. Yeah, if it didn't even cover the entire 10 years, it wouldn't have been that bad. Yeah, Sienna Galorius at 28 as Helen, not bad at all. Same as for Diane Kruger, it doesn't cover, Troy doesn't cover 10 years. It goes with the idea that it might have been an exaggeration. So, yeah, it actually being 33 isn't a requirement, just being in the general age range, I guess. Does that mean we have the age figured out for everyone? No, it does not. We know that Achilles was 15 at the start of the Trojan War, so that means he died at 25. We know that Patroclus was actually older than Achilles, so that gives us an idea. But the extent of our knowledge is past 25. Oh, good lord. Yes, past 25. That is really the extent of our knowledge. In some accounts, we have well, in the account featuring Aphrodite turning, giving Paris Menelaus' likeness, Helen actually brought her and Menelaus' infant son Nicostratus with her, and he survived the whole thing. So we know that by the end of the Trojan War he's 10, and by the time of Odysseus' return to Ithaca, that would make him 20. And by extension, Helen would be 40. His mother Helen would be 43. Jeez, if you were adapting the Iliad, if you were adapting the Trojan War, the entire Trojan War, straight through the 10 years, because let's face it, the Iliad does not cover the whole 10 years. It only covers a portion near the end of the war. Jeez, you... Good lord. You need a woman. An actress would have to be playing... An actress would be playing Helen from the age of 23 to 43, so... Meet in the halfway point, an actress in her 30s maybe? Make her look younger, make her look younger and then older, I'd say. For Achilles, maybe an actor who's 20. As I said, try to find the midway point. Nicostratus, you just need to have various actors. Yeah, just various actors for the role. Oh, yeah, Achilles' son Neoptolemus, same age as Nicostratus. Yeah, so a 10-year-old kid beheaded the king of Troy. And he died some point after in his teens. Pretty sure he was pursuing Menelaus' daughter Hermione. Yes, Menelaus and Helen had a daughter named Hermione. Who did Hermione end up marrying? Orestes, the son of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. Agamemnon being Menelaus's older brother and Clytemnestra being Helen's maternal half-twin sister. I kid you not. I'd like to go on record that Hermione was older than Nicostratus. So what does that tell us? It just tells us that she was older than him, than her brother and the guy pursuing her. I mean, something disturbing and a disturbing concept for the modern age is that Neoptolemus had taken a wife. He had taken Andromache, Hector's widow, as his wife. Good lord, Hector must have been in his mid-30s when he died. How old could Andromache have been when... what am I talking about? Yeah, well... Yeah, Hector, theoretically mid-30s, theoretically, when he died, Andromache, maybe same age, maybe younger. Their son Astyanax was born in the 10th year of the Trojan War, and died that same year, being hurled from the walls, the battlements, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Neoptolemus followed a son by Andromache, but let me remind you that Neoptolemus was 10 at the end of the Trojan War, and he took for his prize a woman possibly old enough to be his mother. I'd like to go on record that I have no problem with age gap romances. I just have a problem when it's not a legitimate romance. Let me reiterate that Andromache was taken as a prize. She was a spoil of war. she was one of the spoils of war, so yeah. Oh, by the way, that Achilles and Patroclus' lovers thing, it's post-Iliad, and giving that Homer was telling a tale about something that had long... Uh, he was just telling a story that had been told before he had... that had been told by others before him. What do we get from that? That the first case of it happened after Homer. That Achilles and Patroclus definitely were not in a relationship. I mean, if they... I mean, it doesn't really make any difference if they were or not. Let's look at it this way. It's ancient Greece. I'm sorry, ancient Hellas, I should say. Because that's what the people living in the country actually call it. Hellas, and they themselves are called Helens. I'm not exactly sure if I'm pronouncing that right, though. Helenas? Yeah, relationships between two men, it was common. They had no problem with same-sex relationships, and we of this day and age are just getting back to making it acceptable. But we also have to remember that Achilles and Patroclus were also related. They weren't immediate cousins. It wasn't like Patroclus was the son of a sibling of Peleus or a sibling of Thetis, but they were related. They were some form of cousin. So, while yeah, you basically have, it really doesn't make a difference. If they were lovers, Achilles would go avenge them. If they were not, Achilles would still go and avenge him because Patroclus was his friend and his kinsman. So let me reiterate. Achilles and Patroclus as lovers means absolutely, it makes absolutely no bearing on the story of the Iliad, because with their, if they were lovers, this look at the if, as I said, it's a them as lovers post Homer. But still, if you believe them to be lovers, them being lovers makes absolutely no difference to the story. This here, because Patroclus was already his friend and his kinsman. I don't even care for this lovers really not nonsense. We all know it wasn't something that Homer wrote. He merely described them as close friends, and the genealogy and the mythology makes refers to them as being kinsmen. I don't know. There's something in the back of my mind that's just there's something inside me that's just screaming. The post-Homeric people were just trying to replace some unnamed male lover with Patroclus. Does that sound like a possibility? Yeah, it really does sound like a possibility. For all we know, they were just trying to replace an unnamed lover with one of Achilles' subordinates who actually did have a name. And it's actually quite bizarre when you think about it, because Alexander the Great, yeah, no contemporary records of him having same-sex relationships. And let's also look at the fact that his two children, one of them, the illegitimate son Heracles of Macedon, his existence is disputed. The one that we actually do know existed, yeah, he was born posthumously. Alexander was already dead when that happened. So what does that tell us? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but he sounds closer to asexual. And the only case of him having an Eromenos, or whatever it's called, male lover, it's apocryphal, and the person in question is not Hephaestion, but rather Bagoas, the eunuch. Yeah, not Hephaestion. Wow. Bagoas I can actually get behind because, well, even if it's apocryphal, yeah, there's something to it. Hephaestion, on the other hand, not really dated to Alexander's lifetime. It's not contemporary. Were Alexander and Bagoas actually lovers? I don't doubt it. It's a possibility. If they were, they were. If they weren't, they weren't. But Alexander and Hephaestion, yeah, as I said, no, the no same-sex relationships thing. I think because Bagoas was a eunuch, he probably didn't he was probably excluded from being thought of as a man. I mean, obviously he was a man, but yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? So, where exactly did Hephaestion and Alexander come from? Well, here's my theory. If Achilles and Patroclus weren't actually lovers, then yeah, they weren't actually lovers, and Achilles seemed to have romantic or sexual intentions for quite a few women. Unfortunately, one of them was a woman he killed, and he didn't actually have such intentions for her until after he had killed her and discovered she was a woman. Yeah, I'm not making that up. Queen of the Amazons, not Hippolyta. A queen after her, yeah, it's, what the hell? No, I'm not. Here's my theory. If the Achilles and Patroclus thing is post-Homeric, and thus not even in the mythology, not even in Homer's sources, then if that came later, then the Alexander and Hephaestion thing must likewise have come later. I don't really understand the Alexander and Hephaestion as rivals thing. Because here's my thinking. If they were rivals, why did Hephaestion never betray Alexander? Why did Alexander keep him close? They must have been friends. I know the keep your friends close and the keep your enemies closer thing. But in all that time, Hephaestion had never betrayed Alexander. And if they weren't lovers, they must have been friends. I mean, close enough friends to want their descendants to, marry. That Philip II of Macedon had same-sex relationships. Oh, there's no doubt about it. That Alexander had same-sex relationships. Yeah, as I said, no contemporary records. We've got these myths surrounding people, like, Edward Longshanks and Prima Nocta, or whatever it's called, Prima Noctis, never did such a thing. Unfortunately, these myths are caused by either films, books, or such things. And as for the belief that Achilles and Patroclus were lovers, yeah, not to be found in the Iliad. And if it wasn't found in the Iliad, it might not have been told by anyone who had taught Homer the art of being a bard. And really, the Trojan War is such a fascinating story. Do we really need to get the romantic and sexual relationships of every single commander into it? No, I don't want that. I don't want everyone's romantic and sexual relationship. I want the adventures. I want the battles. I legitimately think Achilles might have had a male lover, but I feel that his name might have been lost to time, and Patroclus might have just been someone to fill the gap, give him a name. Anyway, I'm Brian Croydragon signing out. Stay straight.